Hi, I'm Valerie from Cedar Flats Flower Farm, and today we're going to be talking about dahlia tubers and how to plant them. When you receive your dahlia tubers, they're going to be in some sort of storage material, and I like to use vermiculite. This is also really great for your soil. When I plant my tuber, I just add this vermiculite right into the soil, and it gives it some better drainage. It helps with, if your soil really holds a lot of moisture, that will rot your tuber. So every time I plant a tuber, I just put a few tablespoons of vermiculite in the hole with the tuber, and that helps with draining away the water. So tubers come in all shapes and sizes. The end might be cut off flush, and that's totally fine. The plant grows from the head of the tuber. And when you plant your tuber, you plant it on its side like this. And the roots will come from this end. The neck is right there, and the eye is up here. It's going to be really hard to see on video where the eye is, but right there is the eye on this tuber. When you plant them, they're on their side with the eyes pointing up. There might be multiple eyes. Don't worry too much about if it's turned sideways. That's not a big deal because the plant will figure it out and will grow upright. I plant them about 4 to 5 inches deep, and I do not water them until there is a shoot of greens out of the soil that's at least several inches high. The reason you don't want to water them, the most likely way to lose a tuber, in my experience, has been overwatering. So do not water your tubers when you plant them. Don't worry too much about rain. It's okay to plant them and then for it to rain, even heavy rain the next day. But if you're seeing that it's a lot of heavy rain for days and days and days, or not, if there's no rain, either way, I like to cover the soil with leaves or even cardboard, sometimes grass clippings, and that protects the soil, it protects the microorganisms that live in the soil, and it keeps the water from getting to your tuber. I plant my tubers out here we're in zone 8B in the Pacific Northwest. I plant them literally any day throughout the year. From like October until June, I might be planting a tuber. I can leave them in all forever, but I like to dig mine up and divide them just to keep spreading them out. You don't have to dig and divide. I do it so that I can share my tubers with others. And I also find that if I don't divide them after 3 or 4 years, it just gets like pretty crowded in there, and the plant seems happier to me when I divide every 2 years or so. And in order to divide, it doesn't matter really the size of this part, the body, but it does matter that the neck is not damaged and that there is a visible eye on there. And when I plant one tuber, generally I will get 6 to 8 viable tubers from that one plant after one growing season. If I leave it in for 2 growing seasons, it's more difficult to divide just because there are so many more tubers. But at that point I might get 10 to 12. What else about tubers? Generally, the rule of thumb is that once you plant them, they need 120 days or so underground before you should dig them up and divide them. If I plant them in June, they're not going to bloom here until like early September. And our growing season ends, sometimes the frost hits in mid-October. And so that's a pretty short growing window. So I like to put them in the ground early, and they will start popping through the soil by the end of May, beginning of June. And that way you can give them a head start. Another way to give them a head start is to pre-sprout them inside, or at least like wake up the tuber. And how you do that is you can just either set them in some soil, you can cover them with a little bit of soil, you can put them in a starter pot, but let the eye either be out or pretty close to the surface, and keeping it at room temperature in your house. It doesn't need to be warm. It doesn't need to be like 80 degrees or anything like that. Right around even 50 degrees, it's going to start waking up. So when it wakes up, you can sprout it inside. It can be a big plant before you transplant, but you don't want these plants to be outside if it's going to freeze. If the tuber's underground, Mother Nature knows what it's doing, and it won't pop through until the right time, generally. If you have a plant that's already grown and you try to plant it outside and it's too cold, that plant is not going to thrive. So there's no rush to get a plant outside, but a tuber is safe and sound underground outside, here in my zone anyway, zone 8B, but I've heard of folks in zone 7, 6, even 5, keeping their tubers happy in the ground all winter long. If you have any other questions, comment below or send me a message. I'm always happy to talk dahlias.